Welcome into Extra Time. Before we get to your questions, I feel we need to discuss what you've been up to over the last 24 hours, Mr. Mariner. Are you allowed to share?
Very busy, very busy times.
About how you travelled?
Well, we turned up at the airport, got cancelled, the flight, so we go to the railway station.
Oh, I don't want the long story.
Got cancelled, and then...
This is a story of planes, trains and automobiles?
Exactly, and then we got the call to get on the Patriots private charter.
What?
It was fantastic.
Very nice.
Mr. Kraft, very kindly lent us his plane, and I didn't sit in Gronk's seat. I didn't think I had that enough respect to do that.
Whose seat did you sit in?
My own.
Good.
So you have your own seat on
yeah, my own seat, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do now.
He does now.
Because I was on it today.
I didn't know.
What was the highlight of the trip?
The food.
Oh.
It was lights out.
Yeah?
Swordfish was immaculate. The
Was
salad.
it chicken or pasta?
Swordfish?
No. It was filet mignon or swordfish.
Blimmin' heck.
Filet mignon, swordfish?
So what do you think I went for?
Swordfish.
Correct.
Well, you said
after yourself, aren't you,
swordfish
Maris?
before.
Did I tell you earlier, did I?
No, you just said the swordfish was fantastic. That's what you started by saying. The swordfish was fantastic.
Right. But I didn't think I gave too much away by saying that, did I?
Could you have doubled down? Could you have gone surf and turf?
Absolutely.
Could you have had a bit of both?
100%.
Yeah?
Did you have a glass of vino?
No, well, it's a professional football team. Come on, man.
You're not
There's
playing.
no alcohol on the...
You don't play.
No. The press, no, absolutely not.
No?
Level head.
Yeah?
Big game at night time.
Exactly. How was that game? As good as the fight?
Interesting game.
You didn't get sent off, everyone else did.
No, but I was in agreement with the referee who sent two of the lads off.
If Pep Guardiola swapped positions with other managers in the top six, would they have won the league this year? Ooh.
Well, if you think about last year, he didn't win it last year with the side they had, so it took a little bit of time to put the side together. Yeah, he spent a lot of money, built very well. I mean, the team he's put together is superb, so I don't think so.
I don't know. I'll say this. I don't think player personnel ought to be the same. I still think City wins it with most of the managers in the top six. But I think everybody else is a bit closer.
Yeah.
I don't think the gap is as wide as it is. That make sense?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. To you,
You were looking at me like, you know, the way you look at me when I don't make sense.
Was it one of his loops that he
Yeah,
gave?
that has his look when I'm not making any sense. I don't know.
With me, it's a custard pie in the face. That's what he normally gives me.
I know you're not going to talk any sense. I don't know what's coming. Is it time for Hazard to leave Chelsea? Do you question his ambition if he doesn't? Good question.
It's a great question. Well, he's thought about signing a new contract. Highest paid player there. It's up to him whether he wants to stay there. I mean, you look at his face when he comes off the field tonight. He's given him 80 odd minutes to perform. I don't know what his face is tripping him up for, but he's a fantastic footballer.
Is it lack of ambition if he does stay?
Is it a lack of ambition? I mean, who knows whether Chelsea can turn this around and go and challenge for the league next year? They've done it before. Can they do it again? I don't know. It seems as though he pouts now and again, doesn't he? And I think there's no doubt if he went to another club, one of the big clubs, he'd be a huge hit. I think Chelsea would not want to lose him.
I would say no, it's not a lack of ambition, but yes, I think I'd like to see him take his chances elsewhere.
Where do you want to see him?
West Ham, where I really want to see him.
Have a back in form, Cristiano made Real Madrid favourites in the Champions League.
No.
How's your list?
My list?
Yes.
His top 10 list.
Here we go. Number one, favourite, according to Shaka Hiss.
Right now.
Yep.
Ooh.
Bayern Munich.
Oh, really?
Pardon?
Bayern Munich?
Number two.
Why have you said Bayern Munich?
Is that because of the league they're in and they're resting up?
Because I think they're complete. They're the most balanced. They're the most balanced.
No, mate.
Bayern Munich. You asked me my
No,
top list.
that's fair enough.
No,
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, what's wrong?
Right.
Number two,
Oh, we're still getting.
Barcelona.
Ooh.
Number three, City. Everybody else tied for
Paul,
fourth.
what about your three?
Manchester City and Barcelona, very difficult to separate, but because Barcelona have got the great man, number 10,
Yep.
I get them slightly ahead, but it would be a fantastic
Why
final.
do you sound on his Bayern ways?
I'm worried about his Bayern ways. For him to say number one straight off the bat is a little concerning from the big man.
No,
but
it's not.
You know, I mean, there's no doubt because the league's already sawn up that he can rest his players and all that palaver. But
so can pretty much everyone else.
Yeah.
Barca have no Iniesta, right?
But,
Still not sure about Iniesta long term.
Well, he pulled his hamstring today, didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. How does that affect Barcelona in long term?
All right, so we already said Man City and Barca for me. That'll be a cracking fight.
Who was third?
I did another third, Danny.
Would you like to give me one?
Arsenal.
If Burnley somehow overtake Arsenal for 6th place...
No, don't say that.
Will you stop calling that part of the table the Big Six?
Who calls it the Big Six?
I thought it was a Big Four.
In some quarters.
No, traditionally,
Why is it the Big Six?
Traditionally in English
six,
football.
What do you get for 6? Nothing.
No, but I think
Traditionally in English football, they refer to the Big Six, but that is going a long way back. Aston Villa was part of the Big Six when I first started.
All right, historian.
So I'm just saying.
No, but it is tradition over the last couple of years. You've referred to them as the Big Six.
Right.
Like Lukaku doesn't score against the Big Six sides. I know he scored.
I don't know where I've been, but I always think about the top 4.
Well, who's the Big Four?
The 4 that are there now.
Well, so Chelsea aren't the Big Four?
Well, not now. They're not because they've fallen apart. they're not going to get.
It's only the last couple of weeks, though.
But that's why they're so many points behind.
What are you talking about?
Because they're inconsistent.
No, we've gone down a ridiculous rabbit hole.
Well, I've never heard the Big Six. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
No, you surely have.
I'm getting confused with the top 4 of the Big Six.
Right.
I'm more interested in the top 4 than the Big Six.
But normally, Big Six is a discussion you have with Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool,
So do we
City,
call
and
Burnley
United.
part of the Big Six? Absolutely not. Is that the question?
It seems to be, yes.
No.
Right, good.
Do they call Toronto the Big Six? Isn't Toronto the Big Six? People Toronto refer no?
What are you talking
I
about?
think they're in a different league.
I'm just saying. People refer to Toronto as the Big Six.
Why?
No?
What are you talking about?
I'm telling you. Look it up. Wikipedia.
Italian?
Wikipedia.
No,
You used to live
Wikipedia.
in Toronto. Have you heard this?
I have an apartment there, yes, that's...
I was asking about your Zillow.
Of course I don't live there, you muppets.
No, I didn't say that.
What are you talking
I
about?
said you used to live there.
Oh, I did, yes.
Did you ever hear them referred to as the Big Six?
Never. I've never heard of the Big Six before. I've told you
I'm
before.
going to look it up. As soon as you say goodbye, I'm going
Can
to
you
look this up.
explain that to me?
Apparently it's called the Six, not the Big
Oh, the Six?
Yeah, have you heard that before?
No,
What did you do in Toronto?
not a lot. That's why I got sacked.
His Toronto memory is kind of like his Japan memory.
Hey, there's
Not
nothing,
a lot.
there's nothing wrong with the Japan memory.
Do you want to tell us any more about your apartment? Is it listed
No,
for
no,
Airbnb?
no.
Or...
Did you?
I don't want to tell you anything. I'm so confused.
Did you have swordfish or filet mignon?
Filet mignon? No,
Okay.
it's something about.
I was close.
I've never heard of
so
that
I was
big-
close.
Look, I need Big Six. Never heard of it.
I was close.
Hello.
Let's go home.
Yeah, let's go home.
Oh,
ESPN FC.
what a shame.
Let's go to Paul's apartment in this Big Six.
It was a lovely apartment. Don't ask you about
It
that.
wasn't. It wasn't a lovely family.
What was wrong with it?
Too small.
Really?
Cost me so much.
Oh, do you still have it?
No, do it. What would I have an apartment up there? It's freezing.
6 p.m. Eastern, ESPN News.
Oh, dear. Look, I'm assuming that Arsene Wenger has recruited the players that he has at his disposal now at Arsenal. If it's correct that he's done that, it's a disgrace. Absolutely, the recruitment has been atrocious. These guys, he knows well and good that these guys are not good enough to get Arsenal anywhere near the top 4. They are absolutely floundering. Their season's over. If all they've got to go for against Milan is this Europa Cup, and that's it. If they get knocked out of that, they might as well get the golf clubs. Well, it looks like some of them have already got the golf clubs out.
Shaka, Wenger says he's done it before, but they've never been this bad.
No, they've never.
This
been.
is rock bottom.
I cannot remember seeing an Arsenal team this bad.
Yeah.
And you have to say it's Arsene Wenger's making. He's been in charge of who comes and goes at the football club. He's been in charge of the football club for 21 years. I'm not sure how he turns this around. And more importantly, I think there's a long-term concern here. As Arsenal continue to slip further and further away from what has become a top 4 and now top 5, how do you get back into Champions League football and use that to continue to entice the world's best players to come to the Emirates? I'm not sure.
And the thing is, like you say, Shaq, it's how many transfer cycles would it take to get this team back on track? Too many.
Just to enforce how poor Chelsea were in this game, 3 shots, none of them on target, 29% possession. For a side that won the Premier League last year, this was embarrassing, wasn't it?
It looked as though they packed it in. I mean, it looks as though the managers packed it in. I mean, it was 1-0 going in the later stages of the game. He didn't make any tactical change. He didn't make any change of any worth. I mean, you know, you bring in Morata on 88th, 89th minute. What's that all about?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's a puzzle. They have gone so far downhill. It's ridiculous from being a side that, I mean, certainly on this show, I was singing the praise of the manager, singing the praise of the players. It seems to be repetition, though, with Chelsea, because they've done this before, so it's amazing.
Conte said the difference in class is obvious between the two sides. We didn't want to go there and lose 3 or 4-0.
And this is my thing, and this is my criticism of Chelsea, certainly under Jose Mourinho a few years ago, and certainly now you have to start looking at some of the players. But all that being said, you don't have a team with the likes of Eden Hazard, with the likes of
Pedro and Cesc Fabregas, who were just spectators, weren't they? For this?
And you don't put those players out to play as they did against City. You don't put them to just, whenever we lose the ball, just run as fast as you can back into our own half and let's set up camp and protect the goal. That's not what these players do. In my mind, better you let them go out, play their natural game, and let them enjoy their game. If you come out losing 3 or 4-0, so be it. I think the damage is doubly done when you have defensive, negative, boring games like this, and you still come out with no points. What is there? What can they take away from coming away from the Etihad, saying, well, we only lost 1, not 3? That doesn't do anything for Eden Hazard.
How do you rate their top 4 chances?
At the moment, I don't rate them at all. There's too many teams playing well. Tottenham are playing lovely football. Liverpool, United seem to be grinding the results. I can't see them getting in the top 4 at all.
The death of David Astori, found dead in his hotel room this morning. The Fiorentina captain dying at the age of just 31. Gab Marcotti joins us. Gab, this is a story, of course, that rocked the world of football, in particular in Italy.
Yeah, it's a tragic story, Dan, and Davide Astori, perfect physical health as far as anybody knew until that point. Early indications are that he suffered a cardiac arrest. There are further autopsies to see if there was something that maybe congenital condition, something that perhaps was missed by the frequent screenings that of course, like all professional footballers, he goes through, and we need to wait on those. But for the time being, really all you have is just this tremendous shock. He leaves behind his longtime girlfriend and his 2-year-old daughter, and certainly Italian football interrogating itself on how stuff like this can happen. And there's a history of this, of course, going back to the likes of Phil O'Donnell, Daniel Jarque, Antonio Puerta, Pier Mario Morosini, a whole bunch of players who have suddenly and tragically passed away in comparable circumstances.
With Stevie Nicol gallivanting around the country with John Barnes, it was left to Paul Mariner and Gab Marcotti to come together to pick the team of the week, and I've been told that both agreed completely.
Uh-oh. Well, that's a fix. That's a fix.
It's not a fix, it's a first. That's what it is.
It's a first fix.
Loughton was bombing up and down for Burnley, had the assist on the goal. Van Dijk playing fantastic for Liverpool. Vertonghen, I think, is the best defender in the league. Holebas was up and down all day. David Silva, the architect for Manchester City. Key with a couple of goals. Eriksen, love watching him play for Tottenham.
Eriksen?
What do you mean? Well, you don't like him?
What did he do in that game?
He ran the show in the middle of the park.
Run this show.
He didn't do anything.
You have Van Dijk.
All right.
Hold on, right?
Hey, in your opinion, he didn't do anything. In my opinion, he ran the show. Murray can't stop scoring goals for Chrissy Hughton.
Hey, we got a Spurs fan who works on this show in my ear just told me he did nothing in that game.
Right. Well, in my... Listen, you think that I'm picking the team of the week, in my opinion.
You and Gab get together, right? Stitch up.
What do you mean we get together? No, we don't get together. This is the first time we've...
You have Van Dijk, hold on, you have Van Dijk in there. Newcastle didn't cross the half-line.
It doesn't matter.
So how you put Liverpool centre-back in there?
Because he was absolutely... He controlled the back line. He was fantastic.
They didn't have to do anything.
Look.
Newcastle didn't cross the half-line.
All right, well, who would you put in there? Go on then.
Anybody else.
Who's your selection? Anybody else?
Somebody who had to defend
Like
us.
who?
I would start with somebody who had to defend.
What about Williams for Everton? Put him in? So you don't put anybody in. Van Dijk is the top man. For his money, with the pressure...
For his money and the pressure.
Fantastic.
Oh, Paul
Against
Mariner,
you-
you've let yourself down.
Maris, I would have that explanation most other weeks.
So you don't like
Not
Van Dijk?
against-
All right, so that's
I
the
love
only
Van Dijk.
player that you don't like in that side. Van Dijk. That's the only player.
No, my point is, right, Liverpool play Newcastle, who barely crossed the half-line. You don't put a Liverpool centre-half in
Well, I
there.
did. Well, I did. And so did Gab Marcotti, by the way.
This is stitch-up.
What is that?
Your stitch-up.
We
This is
agreed
stitch-up.
on the team. I'm not, hey, what am I listening to you two about Team of the Week?
What'd you say?
You would.
ESPN FC back on your screens tomorrow. We'll be talking Crystal Palace, Manchester United.
No
United,
stitch-up next. No
United
stitch-up
fans.
tomorrow.
No United players.
Not yet.
You hate United.
Well, for that
6
price,
days then on
for
ESPN
that price, you
News.
should be in.
What nonsense, Paul.
Good nonsense, though.
Not really.
What do you mean? Well, we agreed on the team.
I've heard that before.
You had nothing to pick at, and that's what's...
Just look, we've got to go now.
Oh, sorry.
A significant blow to Napoli's title chances. They still remain top of the table, but Juventus, with that game in hand after that match midweek, was snowed off. Gab, where do we start here? I feel that we should, first off, give lip service to that incredible goal from Dybala, because it did look like it was going to finish 0-0, didn't it?
It certainly did. I mean, you look at the lineup Max Allegri chose. It was very defensive. It was a really attritional game, quite an ugly physical game actually between Lazio and Juve, and you know, and it gets there into injury time, and then all of a sudden Dybala pops up with this sort of magic. But you know, in some ways, I think that's kind of been the story of Juve. You know, this team that will not go away. So much self-belief. Sometimes they're ugly. Sometimes they're not fun to watch. But they get those moments of intermittent quality that really make the difference. There's not many players in the world who can do what we saw Dybala do there.
And then what happened to Napoli?
It's basically the absolute reverse. And, you know, and I say this, Napoli actually did not play badly at all. They had 21 shots on goal, 14 of them on target. They hit the woodwork. If you're into expected goals, they were well ahead on that as well. In the end, you know, you concede 4 goals. One of them is a wacky deflection. 2 of them, the second one I thought in particular from Edin Dzeko, are wonder goals. Alisson goes and saves everything in sight. And for Roma's 4th, there was that foolish clearance where Mario Rui decides to backheel it to his own penalty spot, which is never really a good idea. So, you know, you put those things together. Maurizio Sarri says, guys, you know, we really didn't play badly. You know, we could have easily won this game in different circumstances. I think that's the spirit that Napoli need to maintain. They need to maintain that self-belief, look beyond the result, and realize that they still control their own destiny.
Spurs Juventus.
Woo! This is I mean, Tottenham are playing fantastic football.
Yeah.
Coming from an ex-Arsenal guy, it's hard for me to say that, but they are playing beautiful football. I think Pochettino's got them superbly balanced. You know, they've got the away goal. Juventus need to score. Are Juventus capable of scoring? Of course they are. They've got talent all over the field.
Probably no Higuain.
Yeah, but you know, if Dybala comes in, he can turn a game on his head. But Tottenham are playing some beautiful football. The confidence is high. Wembley seem to be happy at Wembley now. I'm going to go with Tottenham. I think they'll do it. I think they've got enough. And Pochettino will be driving this team on.
I'm the same. I thought in the first half hour, that first leg, Spurs looked like the deer caught in headlights.
They did, yeah.
But they shook that off, and I thought the response was outstanding. I thought the second 45 was as good football we've seen from Tottenham in Europe for quite some time. And being back at home for the second leg, I think that's important. I think they get this job done.
Number 1 versus number 2 currently in La Liga usually makes for a pretty juicy fixture. Barcelona took on Atletico Madrid, but as you can guess, Barcelona were the ones to come out on top with a 1-0 win thanks to a spectacular kick from who else but Lionel Messi. 8 points now clear at the top of the table. Janusz, in context of this season, how big of a win is this for Barca?
Massive. You know what? Ahead of this game, I was just thinking to myself, Barcelona are actually under pressure to win this game, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, here's a team that in La Liga hasn't lost a game in any competition so far, right? And all of a sudden, they're facing Atletico Madrid in second spot. By the way, tons of credit to Atleti to even be in that position, because you and I and everybody else around the world were thinking this is all about Barcelona and Real Madrid. Real Madrid
season to lose.
Right, to even get better last year after winning the Champions League and winning just about everything, right? The Asensios of the world, the Iscos, the young players are just gonna run away with it. So I don't want to take anything away, but I was just shocked to see that really there's only 5 points. So it was a huge win for them, one that they needed.
Did you expect more goals from Barcelona?
Yes, I was disappointed with Atleti because I don't know if Ter Stegen had to make a save in this one. It was a massive opportunity to put even more pressure on. But psychologically, I think Barcelona could have sent a message. Not to La Liga. Everybody knows the La Liga is over, right? Now it's over. Barcelona has won it, for me. But I think to the rest of Europe, right? And here's Atleti. Yes, we drew too many games. Yes, we drew against Las Palmas last game to put Atleti in that position. But here we are again. This is how we can play. Because there's always that extra gear that they have. They sometimes choose to go into and oftentimes do.
Well, Lionel Messi was just being Lionel Messi, his 600th career goal. That spectacular free kick that we saw. But let's talk about Iniesta. How worried should they be about his injury?
They should be. A lot. I was surprised that they kept him on the, I think it was probably another 5 minutes that he was there. Look, Barcelona in the position they are in the La Liga, with where they are with Champions League, scoring that goal away to Chelsea. Barcelona need Iniesta for maybe 3 games for the rest of the season. Before this injury, 3 to 4 games. The rest does not matter, and they need to put him in a bubble and keep him healthy. So look, that was always going to happen, but to keep him there for that long, I was surprised. But never mind that. Pull his hamstring, it seems that way. That is a worry because Coutinho, of course, is cup-tied, can't play in the Champions League. So that's a massive loss.
All right, thanks so much to Janusz Mihalik. So Barcelona still with plenty battles to fight, but for this one against Atletico Madrid, they came out on top. Arsenal fans are probably wondering why they even bothered to tune into today's game as they lost 2-1 to Brighton, their 4th straight loss, Janusz, in all competitions. Now they want to know, Janusz, what went wrong this time?
This time, I think same.
A lot of goes wrong all the other times too.
I think it's the same story: a lack of resilience, lack of leadership on and off the pitch, and then it comes down to the manager. We tiptoe around this fact because we have a lot of respect for him, which he deserves. But that is a problem. These players aren't playing for Arsene Wenger. That is ironic in it of itself, I suppose, because he's given them so many chances that the players don't deserve. Because if you can't hold the manager accountable, it's very, very tough to hold the players accountable. I mean, this isn't a story where if you don't play well, like Jose Mourinho perhaps, or even Conte at times, at halftime you have 2 or 3 chances, or maybe you sit at the end of the bench. When you're losing, it's very, very difficult, and you have this father figure in Arsene Wenger, and I think the players are taking advantage of that, and they have been for a long time right now.
All right, here's where things get juicy now. Let's have a look at Arsenal's upcoming fixtures, because after all of this, Wenger still says he believes he can turn things around, but he does admit it's nearly impossible to finish in the top 4. So I'm assuming by saying turning things around, he means winning the Europa League to get back into the Champions League, Janusz. Here are their upcoming fixtures. What do you see happening?
No, I mean in terms of Premier League, that's way too much. Players have goals. I mean, once they're gone, they play like that. And speaking of the, that one bright light, which is of course the Europa League. Now, two similar clubs, right? You look at Milan, big clubs.
They know their hardships too.
The hardships, right? But, well, first of all, Milan, to a degree, you understand it. With Arsenal, they have no reason for that because that's a big club that has everything. They have money. They have everything possible. They just don't have a good leader. And this is where I would worry about Arsenal a little bit because look at Gattuso, right? Most likely not as good a coach as manager, or at least a lot less experience as well. But that leadership, the players that will buy into his message, 13 games unbeaten right now. And it's, to some degree, maybe just rah-rah from on the Gattuso side. So we'll see if that happens. But I just have a feeling that there's a renewal at Milan where at Arsenal, I think players know that this season is gone. And they are waving white flags.
Well, tough times at Arsenal indeed. Nothing new if you have been watching them for the past how many years now, but something tells me that this time something's got to give.
So, there's to be no NASL season coming up, and the owner of the New York Cosmos, Herculez Gomez, has had some harsh words. I want to get your take on this quote from the owner of the Cosmos, Rocco Commisso. Winning 6 games in 85 years in World Cup competition is nothing to brag about. We are a failed soccer nation. We were then, and we still are. Now, this is a broad range of comments. It isn't just about the NASL. First of all, what do you make of what you've just heard?
Well, he's not entirely wrong. I wouldn't say failed, because if you look at the dark ages when there was no World Cup participation for the U.S. men's national team, and to when there finally was, there was a lot of positive to go about it. But just because there's a few positives doesn't mean it's working, doesn't mean you don't have to change things. He clearly wants change.
Yes.
Are we a failed soccer nation? Well, most nations are. I would say we are a mediocre soccer nation, not necessarily failed, but it's clear and abundant that he wants change, and this is what it's after.
There's a lot for the new president, Carlos Cordero, to get his teeth into, but he'll come into that knowing what life is like having been the vice president. There's this pending lawsuit from the NASL with the Cosmos as well. There's a lot of things going on. Do you think he's got an idea of the order of things he has to fix and how he can fix them?
Well, I hope so, because that's what his job will entail now. And look, Rocco Commisso, in game for him is he wants to change the system. He wants to change the pyramid. He wants to make it open. He wants pro route. We get all these things. He said so himself. He has no problem tying in for the next 3-4 years, 18 million plus a year in litigation and lawsuits to get this going. Whether he can affect change before it gets there, that remains to be seen. Carlos Cordero has his hands full, but he's been through this before. He was in the system before. He was vice president for 2 years. He knows how this is going about. I hope he gets together with Rocco Commisso, with Silvas of the world, Ricardo Silvas of the world, so they can come sort of some common ground, because NASL disappearing is not good for American soccer. You're only as good, not only in your grassroots, but the lower levels. If the lower leagues aren't striving, they aren't consistent, then at the top it won't be as well.
Is there a case for, hopefully when NASL does come back, or USL or whatever, that this promotion relegation aspect has to be introduced, so you've got a feed up and a feed down?
Who knows? You see other leagues around the world moving to a mechanism where they're eliminating the pro rel. Mexico right now is investigating what they can do. They're putting the pro rel system on a pause. Only 2 teams will be added in the next 2 years, but there will be no teams relegated. I have a feeling they're going to go a different route, and many leagues are going to try copying the MLS model. I don't know if that's a correct route. I personally enjoy pro rel. I enjoy the drama. I enjoy the excitement. I enjoy the competition and the striving of the survival of the fittest. But to convince these owners, I don't know if you can just strip them of these franchises, but to convince these owners who have invested upwards of 150 million plus that this is the route they have to take, they must take, it would be interesting to see if they can do that. Carlos Cordero has his hands full, because this is clearly a problem that's not going away, and I don't consider it a problem. I think this is a healthy debate that needs to be talked about.
And speaking of problems in life, if you have problems, there's usually other people you can blame. For US soccer, a lot of this has been self-inflicted.
Probably the more anticipated match of the Premier League weekend, Manchester City up against Chelsea, and take a guess, Janusz. City came out on top, 1-0. Woo, that was a rip-roar of a game, and that's me being nice. If we have a look at the table, to put things into perspective, you see City 18 points clear at the top of the table. That's why we're not even going to talk about them, because what else is there left to say? But let's talk about Antonio Conte and Chelsea and the tactics, because that's where all the criticism has come today. I mean, we know Jose Mourinho is known for playing this kind of football and parking the bus, Janusz, but he would have never approached a game like this, leaving players like Alexis Sanchez or Lukaku on the bench. So what gives Conte? What did you make of it?
I wasn't surprised, because you look at the false nine, that worked well in the Champions League against Barcelona, if you remember. I think, you know, for as long as it stayed 0-0, that was fine. I didn't expect anything else. There was a certain lack of urgency, that's for sure.
When they went 1-0 down, there was still no urgency.
But you can put that down to Conte. Look, Conte would at least be running about there, causing havoc, right? And that's important, and probably some extra. But I think, you know, if I have to look at that, first of all, Manchester City have been doing that to everybody, everywhere. So you have to acknowledge that, to Arsenal's, Chelsea's, and all over the place. So especially at home, you know, when you don't have the ball, you don't have a chance to win. I mean, it's that simple sometimes. But I also think that you look at a Chelsea team that I think was deflated, maybe lost the sense that their targets are gone, right? I mean, you
look
look
at the manager.
No, I think, well, a manager has to take responsibility for that. And you saw his expressions last couple games on the sidelines, and the players as well, because think about it as a player. I mean, you played an incredible game against Barcelona at home. That draw had to feel like a loss. I think somewhere deep down, the players may think that that competition is gone. And if they didn't think that at the time, the loss to United compounded that, because they looked great in the beginning. In fact, you know, if they were to take advantage of a lot of that, they would have won that. And that keeps your season going a little bit. As a player, you think, okay, we can go to Barcelona. So I think we saw that little bit in this game against a team like Manchester City that's just unsung, right? I mean, you'd say, well, they play Thursday, may be tired. You're not tired when you're winning. And you're not tired when you're winning like that, when everything goes your way. And that's what I saw from Chelsea, a team that knows that their biggest targets are gone. And, you know, I mean, that happens. They won it last year. I think they won it too early almost in Antonio Conte's, you know, time with the team.
All right, thanks so much to Janusz. Their biggest targets might be gone, but their manager might be gone as well.
FA Cup
pretty
still
soon.
there, I guess.
FA Cup, we'll see if they can get some momentum there.